The sun beat down mercilessly on the dusty trail between Colorado City and the scattered ranches that dotted the Colorado Territory landscape. And beneath a twisted juniper tree lay a woman so still that Benjamin Norris almost mistook her for dead when he dismounted his horse to investigate. Benjamin had been riding back to his ranch after delivering a small herd of cattle to the stockyards in Colorado City. His saddlebags lighter but his pockets heavier with the payment he had earned. The year was 1878, and the territory was still rough country where danger lurked around every bend in the trail. He had learned long ago to pay attention to anything out of place, and the splash of blue fabric against the red dirt had caught his eye from 50 yards away. He knelt beside her, his weathered hand surprisingly gentle as he checked for a pulse at her throat. Relief flooded through him when he felt the faint flutter beneath his fingertips. She was alive, but barely. Her lips were cracked and bleeding, her face sunburned to a painful red, and her breathing came in shallow gasps. He looked around quickly, searching for any sign of a wagon, a horse, or companions, but saw nothing except the endless stretch of scrubland and the mountains rising in the distance. "Madam," he said softly, lifting her head carefully. "Can you hear me?" Her eyelids flickered but did not open. Benjamin reached for his canteen and dribbled a small amount of water onto her lips. She stirred slightly, her tongue moving to catch the moisture. He knew better than to give her too much too fast after such severe dehydration. He had seen men die from drinking too quickly after going without water for days. He glanced at the sky, calculating the hours of daylight remaining. His ranch was closer than town, maybe an hour's ride if he pushed hard, but he could not push hard with her in his arms. He would have to take it slow and steady. Benjamin was a big man, standing well over 6 feet tall with broad shoulders built from years of hard ranch work, but even he knew carrying another person for that distance would test his strength. Without wasting another moment, he scooped her up as carefully as he could. She was lighter than he expected, her body thin beneath the travel-stained dress. He settled her across his saddle before mounting behind her, cradling her against his chest as he took up the reins. His horse, a steady buckskin gelding named Scout, shifted beneath the extra weight but responded to Benjamin's gentle urging. The ride back to the ranch seemed to take forever. Benjamin kept checking the woman's breathing, relieved each time he felt the slight rise and fall of her chest against his arm. He wondered who she was and what had brought her to such a desperate state. Women did not travel alone in this country, not if they could help it. Something terrible must have happened. As his ranch house finally came into view, Benjamin felt a surge of relief. The small but sturdy building sat in a valley with a creek running through it, surrounded by corrals and outbuildings he had constructed himself over the past 5 years. It was not much, but it was home, and right now it represented safety and shelter for the woman in his arms. He managed to dismount while still holding her, though his arms screamed in protest. His housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, an older Chinese woman whose husband had died building the railroad, came rushing out when she heard the commotion. "Mr. Benjamin, what happened?" she asked, her English accented but clear. "Found her on the trail," he said, carrying the woman toward the house. "Dehydration, exposure may be worse. Can you help me?" Mrs. Chen had already turned back toward the door, moving with surprising speed for her age. "Bring her to your room. It has the best bed. I will get water and cloths." Benjamin carried the woman into his bedroom, a simple space with a large bed, a dresser, and little else. He laid her gently on the quilt his mother had made years ago before she had passed. The woman's breathing seemed slightly stronger now that they were out of the sun, but she still had not opened her eyes. Mrs. Chen returned with a basin of cool water and clean cloths. Together, they began the work of tending to her. Benjamin knew he should leave this to his housekeeper, but something kept him there, helping to bathe the woman's face and arms, trickling water between her cracked lips, watching for any sign of consciousness. "She has been out there for days, I think," Mrs. Chen said quietly. "Look at her hands." Benjamin saw what she meant. The woman's hands were scratched and blistered, her fingernails broken and dirt-caked. She had been walking, crawling perhaps, fighting to survive. His respect for her grew. This was no pampered city woman. This was someone who had refused to give up even when death seemed certain. As the sun set outside his window, Benjamin finally allowed Mrs. Chen to shoo him from the room so she could change the woman into a clean nightgown. He paced in his small parlor, his mind churning with questions. He should ride into Colorado City, report what he had found, see if anyone had reported a missing woman. But he did not want to leave her, not yet. What if she woke and found herself alone in a strange place? What if she took a turn for the worse? Mrs. Chen emerged an hour later. "She is resting. I have given her more water and she swallowed some broth. That is a good sign. But Mr. Benjamin, you must eat too. You have been caring for her all afternoon." He had not even noticed his own hunger until she mentioned it. Mrs. Chen brought him a plate of beef stew and cornbread, but he ate mechanically, his thoughts in the next room. When he finished, he could not stop himself from going to check on his unexpected guest. She looked better already. The worst of the dirt had been cleaned away, revealing a face that was striking rather than conventionally pretty. She had high cheekbones, a strong jaw, and dark hair that Mrs. Chen had braided to keep it manageable. Benjamin guessed she was in her mid-20s, perhaps a few years younger than his own 28 years. He pulled a chair close to the bed and sat down, telling himself he was just keeping watch in case she needed anything. But as the hours passed and the house grew quiet around him, he found himself studying her face in the lamplight, wondering what color her eyes were, what her voice sounded like, what her story was. Somewhere deep in the night, her eyes finally opened. Benjamin had been dozing in the chair when he heard her sharp intake of breath. His eyes snapped open to find her staring at him with wide, frightened eyes the color of dark honey. "It is all right," he said quickly, keeping his voice low and calm. "You are safe. I found you on the trail. You are at my ranch." She tried to speak, but only a croak came out. Benjamin reached for the glass of water on the bedside table and helped her take small sips. She drank gratefully, then sank back against the pillows, still watching him with those wary eyes. "What is your name?" he asked gently. "Priscilla," she whispered. "Priscilla Barrett. I am Benjamin Norris. This is my ranch. How did you come to be alone on that trail, Miss Barrett?" Her eyes filled with tears and she turned her face away. "The wagon train. There was an accident. The wagon went over the side of a ravine. My parents, my brother, they all died. I was thrown clear, but when I climbed back up, the rest of the train was already gone. They must have thought I died too." Benjamin felt his chest tighten with sympathy. "How long were you out there?" "I do not know. 3 days. 4. I walked until I could not walk anymore. I thought I was going to die too." A tear slipped down her cheek. "I wished I would die. What is the point of surviving when everyone you love is gone?" "The point is that you are alive," Benjamin said firmly. "And life is precious, even when it does not feel that way. You survived for a reason, Miss Barrett." She turned back to look at him, searching his face for something. "Why did you help me? You could have just ridden past." "I could never do that," he said simply. "What kind of man would I be if I left someone to die when I had the power to help?" Something in her expression softened slightly. "A man like most men, I suppose. But you are not like most men, are you, Mr. Norris?" Benjamin felt heat rise in his face at her direct gaze. "I am just a rancher trying to make a living. Nothing special about that. You saved my life. That seems pretty special to me." Her eyelids were growing heavy again. "Thank you, Benjamin Norris. I owe you everything." "You do not owe me anything," he said quietly. "Just rest now, get better. That is all I ask." She was asleep again within moments, her breathing deep and even. Benjamin sat watching her for a while longer before finally forcing himself to leave the room. He made a bed for himself on the parlor sofa, refusing to sleep in the bunkhouse with his two ranch hands when he needed to be close in case Priscilla needed anything during the night. The next morning, Mrs. Chen informed him that Priscilla had awakened at dawn and eaten a full bowl of porridge before falling back asleep. "She is strong, that one," the housekeeper said approvingly. "She will recover." Benjamin felt an absurd amount of relief at those words. He threw himself into his ranch work with renewed energy, repairing a section of fence that had been damaged in a recent storm, checking on his small herd of cattle, and working with a young horse he was training to saddle. But his mind kept drifting back to the house, to the woman recovering in his bed. By the third day, Priscilla was well enough to sit up for longer periods. Mrs. Chen helped her into the parlor, where she sat wrapped in blankets despite the warmth of the day, her body still recovering from the ordeal. Benjamin came in from his morning work to find her there, looking out the window at the mountains in the distance. "How are you feeling?" he asked, pulling off his hat. "Better," she said, turning to smile at him. It was the first time he had seen her smile, and it transformed her entire face. "Weak still, but better. Mrs. Chen is an excellent nurse." "She has a good patient," Benjamin said. "You are healing quickly." "Thanks to you." Priscilla gestured to the chair across from her. "Will you sit with me for a while? I feel like I should know more about the man who saved my life." Benjamin sat, suddenly aware of how dirty he was from the morning's work, but Priscilla did not seem to notice or care. She asked him questions about his ranch, his life, how he had come to be in Colorado. He found himself talking more than he usually did, telling her about growing up in Kansas, about coming west after his parents died, about the years of hard work building his ranch from nothing. "You did all this yourself?" she asked, genuine admiration in her voice. "I had help," he said. "Hired men, neighbors when I needed them. But yes, mostly it was just me. I wanted something that was mine, something I built with my own hands." "That is remarkable," she said softly. "You should be proud." He shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. "It is just a small ranch, nothing compared to some of the big spreads around here." "It is yours," she said firmly. "That makes it worth more than all the big spreads in the world." Over the following days, Priscilla grew stronger. She began taking short walks around the house with Mrs. Chen's support, then venturing outside to sit on the porch in the shade. Benjamin found excuses to be near the house more often than usual, stopping by for midday meals instead of eating with the ranch hands, coming in earlier in the evenings. They talked for hours, discovering a surprising ease with each other. Priscilla told him about her life before the wagon train, growing up in Missouri, her father's decision to seek new opportunities in California, her excitement about the adventure that had turned so tragically wrong. Benjamin shared stories about his struggles as a young rancher, the winters that nearly broke him, the small victories that kept him going. 2 weeks after he had found her, Priscilla was well enough to help Mrs. Chen with light tasks around the house. Benjamin came in one afternoon to find her kneading bread dough, flour dusting her nose, laughing at something the housekeeper had said. The sound of her laughter did something strange to his chest, made it hard to breathe for a moment. "You should not be working," he said, more gruffly than he intended. "You are still recovering." Priscilla looked up at him and something flickered in her eyes. I cannot just sit around letting you take care of me forever, Benjamin. I need to be useful. I need to earn my keep. This is not about earning anything, he protested. You are a guest here. I am a charity case, she said quietly, and I hate it. Please let me help. It makes me feel less helpless. He understood the need to feel useful and capable. So he nodded, though worry still gnawed at him. Just do not overdo it. Her smile was radiant. I promise. As summer deepened into early fall, Priscilla became a fixture on the ranch. She took over much of the cooking from Mrs. Chen, who was happy to have help with the heavier tasks. She tended a small vegetable garden behind the house, coaxed wildflowers to grow in pots on the porch, and brought a warmth to the place that Benjamin had not realized was missing. The ranch hands, two brothers named Tom and Jack Foster, clearly adored her. She treated them with friendly warmth, always making sure they had plenty to eat, asking about their day. But Benjamin noticed that she never smiled at them quite the way she smiled at him, never sought out their company in the evenings the way she did his. They fell into a routine that felt dangerously domestic. After dinner, while Mrs. Chen cleaned up the kitchen, Benjamin and Priscilla would sit on the porch together, watching the sun set over the mountains. They talked about everything and nothing, shared dreams and fears, laughed together over silly things. One evening, nearly a month after he had found her, Benjamin realized with a jolt that he had fallen in love with her. It was not a gradual realization but a sudden certainty, looking at her profile in the fading light, seeing the way the breeze lifted strands of dark hair around her face. He loved her. The knowledge was as certain as his own name, but what could he offer her? She came from a good family, educated people with prospects. He was just a rancher with calloused hands and a small spread that barely turned a profit most years. She deserved better than this hard life, deserved silk dresses and fine houses, not endless work and isolation. Yet when she turned to look at him, her eyes soft and warm, he wondered if maybe she did not want those things. Maybe she wanted exactly what he could offer. Benjamin, she said quietly, I need to tell you something. His heart began to pound. What is it? I have been here for a month now. I am fully recovered. I should start making plans for my future, for where I will go, what I will do. She paused, her hands twisting in her lap. But I do not want to leave. I do not want to go anywhere else. I want to stay here, with you. The words hung in the air between them. Benjamin felt like he could not breathe, could not think. Priscilla, I know I should not say such things, she rushed on, her cheeks flushing pink. I know it is improper, that I should be more reserved, but I almost died out there on that trail and it taught me something. Life is too short to waste time pretending we do not feel what we feel. And I feel something for you, Benjamin, something deep and true and terrifying. I feel it too, he said, the words bursting out of him. God help me, Priscilla, I have been fighting it for weeks, telling myself I have nothing to offer you, that you deserve better, but I love you. I love you so much it scares me. Her eyes filled with tears, but she was smiling. You think you have nothing to offer. Benjamin, you have everything. You have kindness and strength and integrity. You built something real with your own hands. You saved my life, not just by finding me on that trail, but by giving me a reason to want to live again. How can you think that is not enough? He crossed the distance between them in 2 strides, pulled her to her feet and kissed her. She melted against him, her arms wrapping around his neck, kissing him back with equal fervor. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, he rested his forehead against hers. Marry me, he said. I know it is fast, I know people will talk, but I do not care. I want you here always. Say yes. Yes, she whispered. Yes, yes, yes. They were married 3 weeks later in Colorado City, with Mrs. Chen and the Foster brothers as witnesses. The preacher, a kindly man named Reverend Walsh, smiled benevolently as Benjamin slipped a simple gold band onto Priscilla's finger. She wore a blue dress that Mrs. Chen had helped her make, and Benjamin thought she had never looked more beautiful. After a simple celebration at the ranch with their small circle of friends, Benjamin carried Priscilla over the threshold of his home, their home now. They had given Mrs. Chen a few days off, sent the ranch hands to stay in town. For the first time since Priscilla had arrived, they were truly alone together. "Are you happy?" Benjamin asked, setting her down gently in the parlor. "Happier than I ever thought I would be again," she said, reaching up to cup his face in her hands. "I thought my life ended when I lost my family. But instead I was given a new life, a second chance, and I get to spend it with you." He kissed her tenderly, then with growing passion. She responded eagerly, her fingers working at the buttons of his shirt. They stumbled toward the bedroom, shedding clothes along the way, and tumbled into the bed that had once been just his but now belonged to both of them. Later, wrapped in each other's arms, Priscilla traced lazy patterns on Benjamin's chest. "You think people will say we married too quickly?" "Probably," he said honestly. "Do you care?" She thought about it. "No, I do not think I do. They did not almost die in the desert. They do not know what it is like to be given a second chance at life and love. Their opinions do not matter." "Good," he said, kissing the top of her head. "Because I plan to spend every day for the rest of my life making you happy." "You already do," she murmured, drifting toward sleep. "Every single day." The first year of their marriage was not easy. The ranch demanded constant work and money was often tight, but Benjamin had never been happier. Priscilla threw herself into ranch life with an enthusiasm that amazed him. She learned to handle chickens and milk the cow, tended her garden with fierce dedication, and proved to have a head for numbers that helped Benjamin organize his finances better than he ever had. When winter came, bringing snow that blanketed the valley in white, they huddled together in front of the fireplace, planning for spring. Priscilla wanted to expand the garden, maybe try raising pigs. Benjamin wanted to buy more cattle, breed them, build up his herd. They talked late into the nights, dreaming together, building their future with words before they built it with their hands. In February, Priscilla began feeling ill in the mornings. Mrs. Chen, wise in ways Benjamin was not, simply smiled knowingly and began making sure Priscilla rested more. When Priscilla finally told Benjamin that she was expecting a child, he felt joy so intense it almost frightened him. "Are you pleased?" she asked, suddenly uncertain. "I know we have not been married very long and money is tight," and he silenced her with a kiss. "I am more than pleased. I am overjoyed, terrified but overjoyed," she laughed, relief bright in her eyes. "I am terrified too. I do not know the first thing about being a mother." "We will learn together," he promised, "just like we have learned everything else." The pregnancy progressed well, though Benjamin found himself hovering over Priscilla constantly, worried that she was working too hard, lifting too much, doing too much. She tolerated his concern with amused patience, though she drew the line when he tried to insist she stay in bed all day. "I am pregnant, not dying," she told him firmly. "Women have been doing this since the beginning of time. I am not going to break." "I nearly lost you once," he said quietly. "I cannot bear the thought of losing you again." Her expression softened, and she took his hands in hers. "You are not going to lose me. I am stronger than I look, Benjamin Norris. It takes more than pregnancy to take me down." In late September, as the leaves began to turn gold in the cottonwoods along the creek, Priscilla went into labor. Mrs. Chen took charge immediately, sending Benjamin and the ranch hands out of the house with firm orders not to come back until summoned. Benjamin paced the porch like a caged animal, jumping at every sound from inside. Tom Foster tried to distract him with talk of the cattle, the coming winter, anything at all, but Benjamin could not focus on anything except the woman laboring in his house. Hours passed, each one feeling like an eternity. When a baby's cry finally pierced the air, Benjamin nearly fell to his knees with relief. Mrs. Chen appeared in the doorway, beaming. "You have a son, Mr. Benjamin, strong and healthy, and your wife is doing well." Benjamin rushed inside, his heart pounding. Priscilla lay in their bed, exhausted but radiant, holding a tiny bundle wrapped in soft blankets. She looked up at him with tears streaming down her face, smiling through her exhaustion. "Look what we made," she whispered. "He is perfect." Benjamin approached slowly, almost reverently, and looked down at his son for the first time. The baby had a shock of dark hair and a red, wrinkled face. He was the most beautiful thing Benjamin had ever seen, aside from his wife. "What should we name him?" Priscilla asked. Benjamin thought about the trail where he had found her, the twist of fate that had brought them together, the second chances they had both been given. "What about Everett? It means brave, strong." "Everett Norris," Priscilla said, trying it out. "I love it. Hello, Everett." "Welcome to the world, little one." The baby yawned, a tiny perfect motion, and Benjamin felt his heart expand in a way he had not known was possible. This was his family, his wife, his son. Everything he had never known he wanted until it was right here in front of him. Life on the ranch changed with the addition of a baby. Sleepless nights became the norm, and the house seemed to constantly smell of sour milk and dirty diapers. But Benjamin had never been happier. He would come in from a long day of work to find Priscilla nursing Everett in the rocking chair he had built for her, humming softly, and his entire world felt complete. Everett grew quickly, a sturdy baby with his mother's honey-colored eyes and his father's strong build. By his first birthday, he was toddling around the ranch yard, fascinated by everything, getting into everything. Benjamin built him a small wooden horse that Everett dragged everywhere, his constant companion. As Everett grew, Benjamin taught him about the ranch, taking him out to check fences and feed cattle, always with the boy secure in the saddle in front of him. Priscilla taught him his letters and numbers, determined that their son would have the education she had received. 2 years after Everett's birth, Priscilla announced that another baby was on the way. This time Benjamin was less terrified, more confident. He had done this before. They would manage. Their daughter was born in the spring, arriving fast and fierce, announcing her presence with lusty cries. They named her Rose after Priscilla's mother, and she proved to be as different from her brother as night from day. Where Everett was cautious and thoughtful, Rose was bold and impulsive, throwing herself into life with reckless abandon. The ranch continued to grow along with their family. With careful management and some good luck with cattle prices, Benjamin was able to buy more land, expand his herd, hire additional help. The small ranch house was expanded to accommodate their growing family, with bedrooms added for the children and a real dining room where they could all eat together. On their 5th wedding anniversary, Benjamin took Priscilla out to a spot overlooking the valley, a place they had discovered together in the early days of their marriage. They sat together on the grass, watching the sunset paint the mountains purple and gold. "You ever regret it?" he asked quietly. "Marrying me, staying here this hard life." Priscilla turned to look at him, genuine surprise in her eyes. "Regret it? Benjamin, marrying you was the best decision I ever made. This life, this ranch, our children, this is everything I never knew I wanted. How could I regret finding everything I was meant to have? I just want you to be happy," he said, taking her hand. "I want you to have everything you deserve." "I am happy," she said firmly. "Benjamin, look at what we have built together. A home, a family, a good life." We are partners in every sense of the word. I would not trade this for anything, not for all the silk dresses or fancy houses in the world." He pulled her close, kissing her temple. "I love you, Priscilla Norris, more today than the day I married you, and I will love you even more tomorrow." "And I love you," she said, settling against his chest. "My hero, the man who saved my life in more ways than one." They sat together as the stars began to appear overhead, content in the knowledge that they had found something rare and precious. They had found each other against all odds, built a life together from nothing, and created something beautiful in the process. Years continued to pass, marked by the changing seasons and the growth of their children. Everett grew tall and strong, a serious boy who loved working alongside his father, learning everything Benjamin could teach him about ranching. Rose was her mother's daughter, bright and determined, already declaring at age 5 that she was going to be a teacher when she grew up. When Everett was 8 and Rose was 6, Priscilla announced she was pregnant again. This time the pregnancy was harder on her, and Benjamin worried constantly. But she remained strong and optimistic, insisting that everything would be fine. Their third child, a boy they named Daniel, arrived in the middle of a snowstorm. The midwife barely made it to the ranch in time, and Benjamin held Priscilla's hand through every moment of the difficult labor. When Daniel finally arrived, small but perfect, Priscilla was exhausted but triumphant. "3 children," she said wonderingly, holding Daniel while Everett and Rose crowded close to meet their new brother. "We have 3 beautiful children, Benjamin." "We are blessed," he agreed, looking at his family gathered around the bed. "More blessed than I ever deserved to be." The ranch continued to prosper. Benjamin's reputation for quality cattle spread throughout Colorado, and buyers began seeking him out specifically. With the additional income, he was able to build a proper barn, buy better breeding stock, and invest in improvements to the house. But it was not the material prosperity that mattered most to Benjamin. It was the moments, Priscilla laughing in the kitchen with Mrs. Chen while they prepared dinner. Everett's pride the first time he successfully roped a calf on his own. Rose reading stories to Daniel, her young voice serious and important. Family dinners around the table, everyone talking at once. Quiet evenings on the porch with Priscilla after the children were asleep, her hand in his. On a warm evening in June, 10 years after the day Benjamin had found Priscilla collapsed on the trail, they stood together on that same spot. Benjamin had arranged for Mrs. Chen to watch the children so he could bring Priscilla here, to the place where their story had begun. "I cannot believe it has been 10 years, Priscilla said, looking at the juniper tree where she had sheltered. "It feels like yesterday, and it feels like a lifetime ago all at once." "I think about it sometimes," Benjamin admitted, "about how close I came to losing you before I ever knew you. If I had ridden by an hour earlier or an hour later, if I had taken a different route, if I had not noticed the blue of your dress against the dirt, so many things had to go exactly right for me to find you." "Fate," Priscilla said softly. "It had to be fate, Benjamin. We were meant to find each other. I lost everything that day, my whole family, my entire past, but I found my future, I found you. Do you still miss them?" he asked gently. "Your parents, your brother, every day," she said honestly, "but the pain is softer now. And I know they would be happy for me, happy that I found love and built a good life. They would have liked you, I think. My father would have respected your work ethic, your integrity. My mother would have loved how you love me." Benjamin wrapped his arms around her from behind, and they stood together, looking at the place where their lives had intersected so dramatically. "I was so lost before I found you," he said quietly. "I did not even realize it. I thought I was building something here, making a life. But it was not really a life. It was just existing, going through the motions. You gave it all meaning, Priscilla. You and our children. You made this place a home instead of just a house." She turned in his arms to face him. "We made it a home together. Everything we have, we built it side by side. That is what makes it so precious." He kissed her as the sun set behind them, the same sun that had beaten down mercilessly on her all those years ago. But now they stood together, strong and whole, with a past full of blessings and a future full of promise. The years that followed brought both joys and challenges. Daniel grew from a baby into a mischievous toddler, and then a curious boy who asked endless questions about everything. Everett, at 16, was more of a partner to Benjamin than just a son, running parts of the ranch operation with confidence and skill. Rose, at 14, was as determined as ever, already making plans to attend the new teachers' college that had opened in Denver. There were hard years, too. A drought one summer that tested their resources and their faith. The winter when Rose got sick with fever, and they spent terrifying nights unsure if she would recover. The day Everett was thrown from a horse and broke his arm, and Priscilla had to hold him while the doctor set the bone. But through it all, Benjamin and Priscilla faced everything together. They held each other through the scary times, celebrated together during the good times, and never forgot how lucky they were to have found each other. On their 15th anniversary, their children planned a surprise celebration. Mrs. Chen had helped them prepare a special dinner, and they had decorated the house with wildflowers from the meadow. When Benjamin and Priscilla came in from their evening walk, they were greeted by their beaming children and a table laden with their favorite foods. "To Mama and Papa," Everett said, raising his glass of cider. "The best parents anyone could ask for. Thank you for showing us what real love looks like." Benjamin felt his throat tighten with emotion. He looked at his wife, saw tears shining in her eyes, and knew she felt the same overwhelming gratitude he did. After dinner, as the children cleaned up, Benjamin and Priscilla snuck away to their bedroom. They lay together on the bed, holding hands, listening to the sounds of their children laughing in the other room. "We did good, did we not?" Priscilla said softly. "We did better than good," Benjamin replied. "We built something beautiful, Priscilla. Not just this ranch, but this family, this life. I look at our children and I see all the best parts of both of us. I could not be prouder." "I am so glad you found me that day," she whispered. "So glad you did not ride past. So glad you cared enough to stop and help a stranger." "You were never just a stranger," Benjamin said. "From the first moment I saw you, even unconscious and half dead from exposure, I felt something. I did not understand it then, but I think even then, some part of me recognized you, recognized that you were going to change everything." She rolled to face him, her eyes still as beautiful as the day he first saw them open. "Do you know what I thought the first time I saw you? When I woke up in your bed and saw you sitting there watching over me. What? I thought you looked like safety, like home. I thought maybe I had died after all and you were an angel sent to welcome me to heaven." She smiled. "Turns out I was not entirely wrong. You did take me to heaven. Just not the one I was thinking of." He laughed and pulled her close, marveling at how perfectly she fit against him, even after all these years. "I am no angel, Priscilla, just a man who got incredibly lucky." "We both got lucky," she corrected. "We found each other when we both needed it most." "That is not luck. That is grace." The following years saw their children growing into adults. Everett married a rancher's daughter from the next valley, a steady, kind girl named Martha, and Benjamin deeded him a portion of the ranch to start his own operation. They built a house within sight of the main ranch house, and soon Benjamin and Priscilla were blessed with grandchildren. Rose did indeed become a teacher, spending 2 years at the college in Denver before returning to Colorado City to teach at the local school. She boarded in town during the week, but came home every weekend, filling the house with stories about her students and her plans for improving the school. Daniel, showing an aptitude for working with animals that exceeded even his father's, announced his intention to become a veterinarian. It would mean years of schooling back east, but Benjamin and Priscilla had saved carefully, and they were determined that their children should have every opportunity they could provide. On a crisp autumn day, Benjamin and Priscilla celebrated their 25th anniversary. The ranch had grown into one of the most successful operations in the region, and the small house had become a sprawling homestead where 3 generations now gathered for Sunday dinners. But the most valuable thing they possessed was still each other. 25 years, Priscilla said, looking at the silver streaks in Benjamin's hair, the lines around his eyes, the weathered strength of his hands. We have been married for 25 years. Where did the time go? Into living, Benjamin said. Into building, raising children, making a life. It went exactly where it should have gone. They were sitting on the porch, the same porch where they had shared so many evenings, so many conversations, so many quiet moments together. Their children were inside preparing for the anniversary dinner, their grandchildren running around the yard. If you could go back, Benjamin asked, knowing everything you know now, would you change anything? Priscilla was quiet for a long moment, really considering the question. Finally, she shook her head. No, not one single thing. Even the hard parts, the scary parts, the painful parts. They all brought us here to this moment, and I would not trade this moment for anything in the world. Neither would I, Benjamin agreed. You know, I used to think I saved you that day on the trail, but I think maybe you saved me too. I was just going through the motions before you came into my life. You gave me purpose, gave me a reason to build something that mattered. We saved each other, Priscilla said simply. That is what love does. It saves us from our lonely selves and makes us part of something bigger and better. As the sun set over the mountains they both loved, their family called them in to dinner. Benjamin helped Priscilla to her feet, and they walked inside together, hand in hand, the way they had walked through life for 25 years. The years continued their steady march. Everett and Martha had 3 children, expanding the Norris clan. Rose eventually married a newspaper editor from Colorado City, a thoughtful man named James who adored her intelligence and spirit. They had twin daughters who were as bright and determined as their mother. Daniel returned from veterinary school and set up a practice that served ranchers throughout the region. He married a doctor's daughter, and they had a son they named Benjamin, after the grandfather who had inspired Daniel's love of animals. Benjamin and Priscilla grew older together, their hair turning silver, their bodies slowing down, but their love never dimming. They spent their days working alongside each other on the ranch, though now they supervised more than labored. They spent their evenings on the porch, sometimes talking, sometimes sitting in comfortable silence, content simply to be together. On their 35th anniversary, their children and grandchildren gathered for a celebration at the ranch. The house was full of noise and laughter, children running everywhere, multiple generations of the family they had created. Everett stood to make a toast. Mama, Papa, 35 years ago you started something incredible, not just a marriage but a legacy. Everything we have, everything we are, comes from the foundation you built. You showed us what it means to work hard, to love deeply, to face challenges together. You showed us that true strength comes from partnership, and that the best things in life are built slowly, with care and dedication. We love you both more than words can say. Benjamin looked at his son, so grown and capable, at Rose with her bright, intelligent eyes, at Daniel who had achieved dreams Benjamin had never imagined possible. He looked at the grandchildren, healthy and happy and loved. And then he looked at Priscilla, his partner, his love, the woman who had transformed his entire world. "I found her collapsed on a trail 35 years ago," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "I thought I was just helping someone in need. I had no idea I was finding my entire future. Priscilla, you have made my life an adventure I never want to end. You have given me more joy, more love, more purpose than I ever dreamed possible. I love you more with each passing day, and I will love you until my last breath and beyond." Priscilla was crying openly now, not bothering to hide her tears. "Benjamin found me when I had nothing, when I had lost everything. He gave me not just my life back, but a reason to want to live it. He has been my partner, my best friend, my great love for 35 years. Every morning I wake up grateful that fate brought us together, grateful for one more day with this extraordinary man." Their family surrounded them, 3 generations bound together by love and shared history, all of it stemming from one moment on a dusty trail when a cowboy chose to stop and help a stranger. As the party continued around them, Benjamin pulled Priscilla close, holding her as he had held her countless times over the decades. She rested her head on his shoulder, and they swayed together gently, dancing without music, lost in each other and the life they had built. "Do you remember when you asked me if I was happy?" Priscilla said softly. "That was years ago now, but I still think about my answer. I told you I was happy, and it was true. But Benjamin, I need you to know something. I am not just happy, I am fulfilled. I am complete. I have lived a life beyond my wildest dreams, and it is all because of you." "We gave that to each other," Benjamin said. "You made me whole in ways I did not even know I was broken. You made me understand what home really means, what family really means. Everything good in my life came from the day I found you on that trail." They stood together, surrounded by the evidence of their love, the fruits of their partnership. 3 children who had grown into remarkable adults, 9 grandchildren who would carry their legacy forward. A ranch that had grown from a small, struggling operation into a thriving enterprise. And most importantly, a love that had deepened and strengthened with each passing year. As evening fell and their family began to drift home, Benjamin and Priscilla walked out to the spot where they had stood so many times over the years. The place where their story had truly begun. "I think about her sometimes," Priscilla said quietly. "The girl I was before the accident, before I nearly died, before I found you. She was so young, so naive. She thought she knew what life was about, but she had no idea." "And now?" Benjamin asked. "Now I know," Priscilla said firmly. "Life is about love. Not the easy kind that comes without effort, but the real kind that you choose every single day. The kind that grows stronger through challenges, that deepens with time, that becomes the foundation for everything else that matters. That is what life is about, Benjamin. That is what you taught me." He kissed her, a gentle kiss full of decades of shared experiences, of passion tempered by time into something even more precious. When they pulled apart, the stars were beginning to appear overhead, the same stars that had witnessed the beginning of their journey together. "I will love you forever," Benjamin said, "in this life and whatever comes after." "Forever," Priscilla agreed. "That sounds about right." They walked back to the house hand in hand, the house that had grown from a simple bachelor's dwelling into a true family home. Lights glowed warmly in the windows, and they could see their children and grandchildren visible through the glass, still celebrating, still together. Benjamin and Priscilla paused at the door, taking in the scene. This was their legacy. Not just the ranch or the land or the material success they had achieved, but this family, this love that had multiplied and spread to touch so many lives. "We did it," Priscilla said softly. "We took tragedy and turned it into triumph. We took loneliness and turned it into love. We took nothing and built everything. We did it together, Benjamin corrected, and I would not have wanted it any other way. They walked inside together, ready to spend another evening with their family, ready for whatever years remained to them, secure in the knowledge that they had lived a great love story. The kind of love story that starts with a chance encounter on a dusty trail and builds into something extraordinary. The kind of love story that never really ends. Because true love, the kind that Benjamin and Priscilla had found in each other, the kind they had nurtured and protected and grown over 35 years, does not end. It becomes part of everything, woven into the fabric of a family, a legacy that will be passed down through generations. That night, as they lay in bed together, the house quiet around them, Priscilla turned to Benjamin one more time. "Thank you," she said simply. "For what?" "For stopping that day. For caring. For choosing me over and over again every single day for 35 years. For giving me this beautiful life." "Thank you for letting me love you," Benjamin replied. "Thank you for seeing something worth loving in a rough rancher with dirt under his fingernails. Thank you for building this life with me." They fell asleep holding hands, the way they had slept for thousands of nights, content and complete in each other's presence. Outside, the Colorado wind whispered through the valley, carrying with it the promise of tomorrow, of more days together, of more love to share. And in the morning, they would wake up and do it all again. They would work together, laugh together, face whatever challenges came their way together. Because that was what they had always done. From the moment Benjamin had found Priscilla collapsed on that trail and had chosen to help, to care, to love. They had built something beautiful together, something that would endure long after they were gone. A legacy of love, partnership, and family that would echo through the generations. And it had all started with one simple choice, made on a dusty trail in Colorado, to stop and help someone in need. From that single moment of compassion had bloomed a love story for the ages, proof that sometimes the greatest treasures in life come when we least expect them, lying collapsed in the dirt beneath a juniper tree, waiting to be discovered and cherished and loved beyond measure.